Algebra 1, lesson on slope. What is slope? If you have ever walked up or down a hill, then you have already experienced a real-life example of slope. As you go uphill, you may feel like you're spending lots of energy to get yourself to move. The steeper the hill, the harder it is for you to keep yourself moving. Keeping this fact in mind, by definition, the slope is the measure of the steepness of a line. For example, going up the hill right here is very steep. Going up the hill right here is not as steep. Those are both examples of slope. In real life, we see slope in any direction. However, in math, slope is defined from left to right. I repeat, we always measure slope going from left to right. This is very important for you to remember. There are three types of slope you can encounter. Slope can be positive, negative, or equal to zero. When the slope is equal to zero, we say that there is no slope. A positive slope. If you go up from left to right, it is a positive slope. So it's up, left to right. It's going up. Positive slope. If you go down from left to right, it is a negative slope. They're going down. Down, left to right. Negative slope. If you go from left to right and you don't go up or down, in other words, it is horizontal, you have a zero slope. It's horizontal, zero slope. Also called no slope. Okay, during class time, we're going to do a group activity. We're going to go out to the staircase at the edge of the building, and we're going to measure the height, which is called the rise, and the depth, which is called the run for our steps. We will have a class secretary that will record the measurements. Okay, we've already said slope is the steepness of a line. Okay, you can be really steep or you can be pretty flat. Okay, when you have measured, like what we just did on the steps, you're going to have a rise and a run. Rise is going up and down, run is going across. So if you're looking at a graph, you can count off your rise, you can count off your run, make a fraction, you have your slope. If they give you points, you're going to subtract the y's on top and the x's on bottom. We'll get to more of that later. So we have a graph and they want the slope. Remember, it is rise over run. First of all, you need to ask yourself, is my slope positive or negative? Notice that it goes up to the right. And we said earlier, if it goes up to the right, it is a positive slope. What you have to do is draw a rise and a run so that you basically form a little triangle using the points they gave you. Count how far up you went. You went up 1, 2. Count how far across you went. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Remember that your rise is up and down. And your run is across because you run across the ground. So rise was 2, run was 4. So my slope is 2 over 4. We want to reduce that, and so that would be 1/2. We said it was positive, so my slope is a positive 1/2. Okay, look at it. Notice that your line is going down to the right. That means that my slope is negative. Take your 2 points. Once again, draw a line so that you have formed a triangle using your rise over your run. Rise has to be an up-down move. 1, 2, 3. The run was 1, 2. Okay? Remember, and it might help you to label which one is your rise, which one is your run. The formula is rise over run. So I'm going to put 3 over 2. We said it was negative, so I put a negative with it. Negative 3 over 2 is my slope. Okay, notice that we have a horizontal line. We said earlier that the slope is 0 or no slope. I like for you to tell me that it's 0, but sometimes in a multiple choice they may call it no slope, so you need to be aware of that. This is a vertical line. We haven't talked about that yet. It's rise over run. Okay? If I were to figure out my rise, I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had a rise of 4. I did not go over any, so I had a 0 of run. If you put that in your calculator, 5 divided by 0, you would get an error. You cannot divide by 0. This means we cannot have a slope for a vertical line. Your slope here is called undefined. Okay, it's not the same thing as 0. It's not the same thing as no slope. It is undefined. It's impossible to do this. When you have 2 points, and they give you the points instead of the graph, there is a formula. It's y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Subtract the y's on top, subtract the y's on bottom. Let's look at this as a graph first, just to make sure we know what it should be. And we went 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we had a rise of 4, and we went over 1. So my rise was 4, over my run was 1. My line is going up to the right, so it should be positive. So I should get 4 over 1. Now let's see what happens with the numbers. In the slope formula, on top, we're going to get what? 1 minus negative 3, 1 minus negative 2, 1 minus negative 1, negative 3 minus negative 1, or negative 3 minus negative 2. You've got to take your y values and subtract. Okay? It would be 1 minus a negative 3. So it would be 8. Okay? 1 minus negative 3 reduces. If you put it in your calculator or you did leave change opposite, you would end up with a positive 4. On the bottom part, we have to subtract the x's. If you started with the first point for your y, you got to start with the first point for your x. So it would be negative 1 minus negative 2. So that would be D. Punch that in your calculator, and you should get 1. So the slope is 4 over 1, which reduces to plain old 4, which is the same thing as what we got looking at the graph. Okay, so find the slope of the line through negative 2, 6, and 4, 3. On the top, you subtract the y's. 6 minus 3. On the bottom, you subtract the x's. Negative 2 minus 4. Use your calculator. 6 minus 3 is 3. Use your calculator for sure here. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. Doesn't really matter where you put the negative in a fraction like this, except that I don't want it in the bottom. So it's a negative slope. 3 over 6 reduces to 1/2. You could put 3 divided by 6 and use your math. Enter, if you weren't sure about reducing the fraction. Do not give me 3 over 6 because it does reduce. Okay, same thing. So in the top, we're going to subtract the y's. So we have 2 minus 3. And on the bottom, negative 6 minus 4. Remember, if you start with point C on top, you got to start with point C on bottom. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Negative 6 minus 4 is negative 10. We know that 2 negatives make a positive, so my slope is actually 1 over 10. My rise is 1, my run is 10. You go up 1 over 10. This takes us to your slope assignment. Come see me during speed if you have questions.